Why is it that the longer a man remains single, the more composed, thoughtful, and self-reliant he seems to become? It's a pattern that's easy to miss, but impossible to ignore once you've seen it. You meet a man in his early 30s. He's not married. No kids, lives alone. Yet he's not bitter, desperate, or broken. In fact, he's calm, centered, almost stoic. You might think he's hiding some deep loneliness. But stay a while, listen to him, and you'll realize something. This man has found something that many in relationships have not. Clarity. And that's what this video is about. Not loneliness, not heartbreak, but transformation. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change the way you think about love, solitude, and yourself forever. This is the comprehensive guide to why the longer a man is single, the more, and how Stoicism quietly walks beside him, shaping him. Let's begin. It starts in silence. Not the quiet of a peaceful morning or the hush of a sleeping city, but a deeper silence, a man's first confrontation with himself. Maybe it's after a breakup. Maybe it's a decision to step back from dating. Or maybe it's just time. And at first, that silence is unbearable, because the world doesn't tell men how to be alone. It tells them how to chase, how to win, how to get the girl. As if every movie and song is one long advertisement for companionship. But in that silence, a man begins to see the truth. He begins to feel the difference between distraction and presence. He begins to hear himself again. That's when Stoicism enters. Not through books or quotes, but through necessity. He finds himself asking, what can I control? And more often than not, the answer is myself. Let me tell you a story. It's about a man named David. David was 28 when his long-term relationship ended. It wasn't dramatic, just one of those slow fades where love turns into habit, and habit eventually breaks apart. At first, he did what most do. He distracted himself, new people, new hobbies, nights out that bled into mornings. But over time, something changed. The noise stopped working. So David stopped running. He spent nights alone. He started journaling, not about her, but about himself. His fears, his failures, his dreams. One day, he came across a line from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That sentence hit him like lightning, not because it was new, but because it was finally true. He realized he had spent years reacting to love, chasing it, fearing it, clinging to it. But now, in solitude, he had space to build himself. Not for a woman, not for a relationship, but for him. This is what Stoicism teaches the single man, that solitude is not a punishment. It's an opportunity, a training ground. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca. None of these men spoke from comfort. They wrote their wisdom from loss, exile, and hardship. And what they found is this: love is beautiful, but not a substitute for the self. A man who has not met himself in solitude will always seek validation in others. And so, the longer he is single, not avoiding love, but cultivating depth, the more he becomes whole. Let's break this down. There are 3 stages most men go through when they remain single for long periods. 1, the noise stage. This is the initial phase. After a breakup or during extended singleness, many men fill the void with noise. Dating apps, parties, distractions. It's natural. We are wired to connect. But this stage is also a form of resistance. It avoids the one person we're not ready to meet, ourselves. Stoicism calls this a lack of inner discipline. The mind is restless because it has no anchor. 2, the reckoning. Eventually, the noise gets tiring. Superficial relationships lose their spark. And one day, perhaps on a quiet night, a man faces his thoughts. This is where the real work begins. It's where a man stops asking, "Why doesn't anyone love me?" and starts asking, "Why don't I know who I am without someone else?" The Stoics call this philosophical clarity. A return to what matters: virtue, character, peace of mind. This is also the hardest stage, because it's not glamorous, it's not public, it's private work. But it's here that a man changes. 3, the emergence. After the reckoning comes a stillness, not because life is perfect, but because he is no longer shaken by imperfection. He may still desire love, but now it's no longer from a place of need. It's from a place of abundance. He becomes magnetic, not because he tries, but because people can feel that he is not desperate for attention. He listens more, speaks with intention, sets boundaries, And above all, he carries peace within him. Let's return to David. 2 years into his singleness, he meets someone. Not in a bar, not on an app, but during a morning hike. They talk, they connect, and over time, they fall in love. But here's the difference. David doesn't lose himself in the relationship. He doesn't seek to be completed. He brings his whole self. His partner notices. She feels safe around him, not because he's perfect, but because he's grounded. The relationship is not built on fear of being alone. It's built on the strength of someone who's already learned to stand alone. That's what Stoicism does for a man. So what does this mean for you? If you are single and have been for a while, don't let the world convince you that something is wrong with you. You are not broken. You are becoming. Let solitude shape you. Let silence teach you. Don't rush to be chosen. Choose yourself. Use this time not to wait for love, but to become someone worthy of it. Journal. Read. Train your body. Train your mind. Speak less. Observe more. And most of all, study Stoicism. Because the longer you are single, the more the world will tempt you with distractions. But the longer you walk alone with intention, the more you will realize you were never alone to begin with. You were in the presence of the only person who can never leave you, yourself. Part 2. The transformation phase. There's a strange moment in every man's life, a threshold he crosses. Without even realizing it, it doesn't come with fireworks or ceremony. It comes quietly, subtly. One day, the solitude he once feared begins to feel natural, then comfortable, and eventually empowering. This is the transformation phase. It's where the internal shift takes place, not in what a man does, but in how he perceives the world. He no longer sees his singleness as something to fix. He sees it as something to explore. Let's talk about Adam. Adam was 35, never married, and had watched nearly every one of his friends pair off. Move in, marry, have children. Each time he congratulated them genuinely. But inside, there was a quiet war going on. A part of him whispered, "You're falling behind." And another, quieter part whispered something very different. "What are you actually running toward?" Adam didn't know which voice to trust, so he stopped trying to silence either. Instead, he began to observe them. He treated his internal dialogue like a philosopher would. He started keeping a Stoic journal, writing each night what emotions showed up, what thoughts lingered, what reactions he regretted. He followed Marcus Aurelius's practice. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But in Adam's case, it wasn't people he was preparing for. It was himself. You see, most men fear solitude because they're terrified of facing their own minds. It's easy to be good when you're busy, when every evening is filled with texts, conversations, and affection. But remove that stimulation, and a man is left with the unfiltered self. That's why Stoicism is so powerful. It doesn't teach men to avoid discomfort. It teaches them to confront it, prepare for it, and even welcome it. Because discomfort is the gatekeeper of transformation. When Adam stopped fighting his singleness and started examining it, he noticed something wild. He had always defined his worth by how wanted he was. If women found him attractive, he felt confident. If they didn't, he questioned his entire identity. It wasn't love he had been seeking. It was validation, and Stoicism gave him the courage to admit that without shame. Because Stoicism doesn't condemn emotion. It simply trains us not to be ruled by it. There's a quote by Epictetus that says, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When a man is single long enough to feel his loneliness fully, without numbing it, he reaches a fork in the road. One path leads to bitterness, to resentment, to narratives like all women are this or love doesn't exist. The other leads inward, to curiosity, to a question far more powerful than, why doesn't she want me? The question becomes, why don't I know myself deeply enough to stand without her? Let's go deeper. This phase, this transformation, it's not just psychological, it's physiological, emotional, spiritual. When a man begins to master solitude, something changes in how he moves through the world. He walks slower, listens longer. His gaze steadies, not darting around looking for affirmation, but resting in presence. He begins to notice things, small details others miss. A stranger's posture, a friend's subtle sadness, the tone behind the words. Because he is no longer rushing through life to catch up, he sees life more clearly. This is the fruit of Stoic training, the ability to see without illusion, to feel without attachment, to love without dependency. You may be wondering, is this always the path? Don't some men just become jaded the longer they're single? Yes, some do. But here's the truth. Time alone doesn't make you wiser. Time examined does. What transforms a man isn't the absence of women, it's the presence of reflection. A single man who numbs himself with distractions will remain stuck. But a single man who uses his solitude like a sculptor uses a chisel, patiently, with purpose, will carve a self that's unshakable. Let's return to Adam. By the time he turned 38, he was no longer afraid of being alone. He had hobbies, goals, meaningful friendships. He was financially stable, not rich, but content. Emotionally, he had boundaries. Spiritually, he had peace. He hadn't given up on love. He had stopped treating it like oxygen. And that changed everything. Because when a man no longer needs a relationship to feel alive, he stops chasing love for the wrong reasons. He no longer overlooks red flags. He no longer tolerates emotional games. He no longer sacrifices self-respect for affection. Instead, he becomes selective, not arrogant, intentional. He realizes that not everyone deserves access to his life. Not because he's above them, but because his peace is now sacred. And that's the kind of man women feel drawn to, not out of lust, but out of trust. Let's take a breath here. If you're watching this and you're in a similar place, feeling stuck, feeling forgotten, feeling like time is slipping, you need to know there is no timeline for becoming. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to learn what you must. Don't envy others' love stories. They are not your curriculum. Your path may require longer solitude because your depth demands stronger roots. Let it happen. Be the man who chooses evolution over escape. Now, let's briefly examine 3 core Stoic practices that help men use their singleness as strength. 1. Negative visualization, premeditatio malorum. This practice involves imagining loss, not to become cynical, but to increase gratitude. A man visualizes losing the comforts he takes for granted, his home, his health, even his freedom. In singleness, this becomes a powerful tool. Instead of resenting the absence of a partner, he begins to cherish the presence of his liberty. He can move freely, learn deeply, become fully. When he one day shares his life, it will be from a place of choice, not dependency. 2. Voluntary discomfort. Seneca practiced sleeping on the floor and wearing rough clothing. Modern men can do the same in spirit by deliberately choosing discomfort. Cold showers, intense workouts, silence retreats, hard conversations. Why? Because when a man masters discomfort, he becomes unbreakable in relationships. He doesn't avoid conflict. He doesn't crumble under tension. He's not shaken by withdrawal of affection because he has learned to thrive without it. 3. The dichotomy of control. This is the heart of Stoicism, and perhaps the most important principle for single men. You cannot control who loves you. You cannot control when love comes, but you can control your character, your habits, your integrity, your daily discipline. Focus there, because the man who sharpens his inner world attracts a better outer one, not through force, but by resonance. Let me leave you with this. The longer a man is single, the more the world asks him why. But maybe the better question is, what is he becoming? Because the man who walks the Stoic path isn't delaying love. He's preparing to give it more purely. He's building a foundation so strong that love won't complete him. It will complement him. And if that day never comes, he's still whole, still dignified, still free. Because he has become a man who no longer needs love to feel worthy, but who is now worthy of the deepest kind. Part 3, returning to the world. Let's start with a moment that many men never talk about. It happens quietly, after years of building, healing, and growing in solitude. He meets someone, not because he was searching, but because he was simply ready. And yet, something unexpected happens. He hesitates. Not out of fear, not out of distrust, but because now he has something to lose that he never did before, his peace. This is what happens when a Stoic man re-enters the world of love. It's not a return to the same battlefield, it's stepping onto a new one, with armor forged in silence. Meet Elijah. Elijah spent his early 20s chasing approval. He was the nice guy, the fixer, the good man who was always available, always accommodating, always overlooked. When he hit 30, something broke, or rather, something woke up. He had spent years chasing women who never valued him because he never valued himself, not really. So Elijah stopped. He didn't swear off women. He didn't become bitter. He just went inward. 3 years passed. He read the meditations. He lifted consistently. He traveled alone, not to post about it, but to find out who he was without a mirror. And slowly he found that he didn't need anyone. He wanted, but he didn't need. That's when Maya entered the picture. She was calm, kind, smart, no games. They met at a small bookshop. Their connection was instant, organic. But Elijah didn't dive in recklessly like he used to. He didn't fantasize or overinvest emotionally on day one. He watched. He listened. He measured, not her, but his own responses. Because he knew what it felt like to lose himself in love, and he had no intention of going back. Here's the paradox of the Stoic single man. The longer he is alone, the more valuable his inner peace becomes. And so when love finally arrives, it must be earned. Not with charm, not with flattery, but with honesty and alignment. This changes everything. Because now he approaches love with intention, not hunger. He's not trying to be chosen. He's evaluating whether he chooses. Let's talk about what this looks like in practice. 1. He sets boundaries early. Most men, especially those eager for love, allow too much too soon. The Stoic man, however, understands that love without boundaries is just chaos with passion. He's clear about what he values: time, space, goals. He doesn't cancel workouts for dates. He doesn't abandon his morning routine because she stayed the night. He doesn't let attraction override principles. Why? Because love isn't his god. It's a guest. Welcome, but not allowed to rearrange his temple. 2. He's not intimidated by emotions, but he's not governed by them either. Stoicism is often misunderstood as cold or emotionless, but that's not true Stoicism. The Stoic man feels deeply, but he is not led by those feelings. If he feels jealousy, he observes it. If he feels desire, he channels it. He does not suppress emotion, he disciplines it. This makes him profoundly trustworthy. Women sense this emotional steadiness. It's rare, and it's magnetic. 3. He chooses compatibility over chemistry. The old version of himself chased butterflies. The new version looks for alignment. He asks hard questions early. Does she respect her own time? Does she pursue growth? Does she hold herself accountable? He'd rather walk away after 3 honest conversations than fall into 3 years of slow emotional decay. This is what Stoicism teaches: live in accordance with nature, not fantasy. There's a passage from Seneca that says, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. In relationships, the Stoic man looks for mutual elevation. He's not looking for a therapist, a mother, or a savior. He's looking for a partner, a fellow traveler on the road of virtue, someone whose presence sharpens him, and someone he, in turn, sharpens. Let's go back to Elijah. After a few months with Maya, something shifted in him. Not because he was losing himself again, but because he realized that the man he became in solitude was finally being seen by someone else. Not just his strength, but his stillness. Not just his ambition, but his attention. For the first time, he felt like he didn't have to perform to be loved. He could just be. That's when he knew this was different. Because this love wasn't pulling him away from himself. It was mirroring him back to himself. This is the reward of a man who has walked alone with intention. He doesn't attract women who want to fix him. He attracts women who recognize he already fixed himself and want to grow together. And even if the relationship doesn't last, he doesn't fall apart. Because he doesn't see love as a possession to lose. He sees it as an experience to honor. And if it ends, he lets go with grace. Not because it didn't matter, but because he still matters. Let's pause for a second. If you're watching this and wondering, what if love never comes? What if I'm alone forever? Let me tell you this. That fear is natural, but it's not a reason to panic. It's a call to create. Create a life so full, so aligned, so purposeful, that love is a beautiful addition, not a desperate escape. When you walk the Stoic path, you do not wait for love to complete you. You live so fully that if love comes, it finds you already whole. And if it doesn't, you've still lived well. That's the essence of amor fati, love of fate. You do not resist what is. You embrace what comes, and you trust that what doesn't arrive wasn't meant to shape you. To summarize this phase, the longer a man is single with intention, the more clarity he gains. When love returns, he welcomes it, but does not worship it. He stays grounded, selective, honest, patient. He becomes a safe space, not a project. And most importantly, he does not betray himself in the name of affection. That's what makes him powerful. Not because he's emotionless, but because he has anchored emotion to principle. He loves freely, but not blindly. He gives fully, but not foolishly. And he walks away, not in anger, but in alignment, when love costs him more than it cultivates.